Needed to see that black people do this. Like black people also transition, and it's not weird. It's not just a white person thing. Like black people also like dive into this type of stuff as well. And they're also trans and non-binary. And
we are taking this moment to tell the stories and to educate. I think there's a lot of stuff that we just don't talk about that
right,
especially sits around people of color and
right.
the sense of us being in this community. I really would appreciate if you tell us a little bit about your celebration into queerness. Tell us
hmm
a little bit about that journey for you.
So like how everything started and all that.
All of it, yes. Whatever you feel like sharing.
So I'm trans. I've been transitioning for about almost 3 years now. It'll be 3 years next month. It's been quite some time. I've had top surgery. I've all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty exciting. Um, I guess it just began where one day I was actually sitting in this like girls like group, if you will, and I just started to feel like I wasn't really one of them. Like I felt like an outcast. And uh, it was really like open this time around. Like it was really, what's the word? Just really like noticeable. And so essentially what happened was I went home. I went home and I saw this video of this like trans guy who was, like all bulky and Hulk and like really good looking and like burning sage. And I don't know, them times like that really spoke to me. I was like, oh my God, he's burning sage, like whatever. So I was like, yeah, let's do it, right? And for a while I didn't really know. I think I needed to see that black people do this. Like black people also transition, and it's not weird. It's not just a white person thing. Like black people also like dive into this type of stuff as well. And they're also trans and non-binary, and blackness isn't even really a thing. I was really actually learning about my blackness and actually learning about like how beautiful it is and stuff, and like starting to accept my dark skin. And dark skin is not really something to accept, but it's more to like embrace, right? And I was really trying to find ways to embrace myself and embrace who I am as a person. And so with that came embracing like my queer identities.
And so much of what you said, there's
Mm,
there's so much truth to
mm,
the spaces to which you have touched upon. So I'm just going to go back because there's a couple of things I want to
sure,
comment on,
sure.
right? And one being when you mention our origins, when you mention where we come from and
Mm,
how we have stood up in our positioning in the ways that we have seen our sexuality, seen
right,
our genders, I think it's worth a mention in the way that you did that,
mm,
we have been colonialized.
right.
And because of the way that the perceptions of the colonial system, it
Mm,
really played into the way that we, as people of color, those of us who were colonialized,
right.
have seen our viewpoints. It is interconnected, entwined. And when
Mm,
we went through this system of colonialism, we
mm,
actually lost some of those original ways of being. There are
right.
certain indigenous tribes, and even in our African understandings, where
Mm,
binary did not exist in the way
right,
that we have structured it now. The
right,
idea of the masculine and the feminine were not as stringent or strict, that
right.
people who identified otherwise were
Mm,
revered as a
mm,
unique wisdom in communities, unique
mm,
understandings, and were held up as leaders in our communities. But
mm,
because it didn't fit a narrative, we were shunned and shied away from those spaces. So I love when
right.
you mention that part of the journey, because what I think it has done, as
Mm,
it has caused a rift in the way that we
mm,
are able to show up. It has
mm,
caused us to disconnect from the fullness
mm,
of what our space is. And I just
right.
want to witness you, celebrate you for being in the truth and standing
Yes,
up in your power, because
yes,
you are like, cutting away the layers and just being who you are choosing to be. And in
yes.
that exploration, you are actually opening doors and allowing others into the journey. When we talk about truth,
Right.
what has it been for you being a queer, Black, sovereign being? What has that been for you? What does that journey look like?
Interesting.
I
I think
love
that
that word.
the when I first transitioned, like I found myself like I guess um huh, it's kind of interesting because like I feel like after I get bottom surgery, I may not be as attracted to guys as I am right now. I think I'm just so fascinated by guys and their whole package that I'm just like, oh, I want to be you, you know? I for that reason I don't see myself falling in love with men. I think I'm genuinely sexually attracted to men, but I don't necessarily think that that's something that men should take and run with and be like, oh my God, Levi wants to date me, because that's often not going to be the case. It's usually just a one night only kind of thing. But with women, however, women are people who I actually want to be with, like romantically as well, and who I can see myself with in a future sense.
Yes.
So, sorry, forgive me, that's the phone there. But yeah, so
we're
essentially,
live and real here, baby. Sometimes you can hear a phone ring. Keep it up.
right.
We're good.
Yeah, but like essentially that's pretty much been the case. You know, it's just been like, you know, it's been kind of fluctuating, but I feel like there's definitely like been a heightened sense of like sexual attraction to guys ever since I started transitioning. But I think more often than not, it's me just wanting to be them. And then also like a mixture of me being afraid to continue transitioning, because sometimes that change can be like really jarring and really like a lot. Transitioning, it is fun, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, like it's fun having like a deeper voice, and like it's fun, you know, having a kick-ass beard, and all these things are fun. But like sometimes it gets a bit challenging, like, you know, thinking about my past and thinking about all that kind of stuff, and then you know, putting it into the forefront. And then sometimes I catch myself like a little bit early on in my transition, like, you know, dating women who are not interested in like men, or like interested in me because I'm a man, but because I'm a trans guy, which means that I may or may not have certain genitalia that, you know, I did before, right? So that's like really important to me, to find people who are interested in me for me, you know what I mean?
See, and I love what you're saying here. And once again, I just want to honor just how candid, how candid and real you are being about this whole process for yourself.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is that although you are stepping into your truth, that you know that it is the space of you, like anybody, we all have journeys with understanding how we are going to place ourselves in our sexuality.
Gender, right? If you want to just stay on the topic of gender for a little bit, because sexuality it's so insanely diverse, right? Gender is the same thing, but it's a bit more scalable in my opinion. So for argument's sake, there are three genders. There are non-binary, male and female, right? Those are the genders. Within that, you have subsex. So there's like, you know, transgender guy, transgender girl, cisgendered guy, cisgendered girl. Now, trans and cis, all that means is transgender just basically means that you woke up one day and said, LOL, I don't agree with what the doctor said. This is who I am for real. And then you come out again. You know what I'm saying? And then with non-transgender people, you know, those folks are like, yeah, the doctor said I'm a girl, sick. And they live their entire lives as a girl and they have no issues about it. So that's essentially what it is on like a very primary level. And then for same thing with non-binary, we're like, look, I woke up one day and my doctor was like, I'm a boy, but honestly, I don't feel like I'm anything. I don't feel like I'm a boy or a girl, or I feel like I'm both. And that is non-binary or gender fluid. Now, I don't exactly know the difference between gender fluid and non-binary, but I know for certain that non-binary just basically means you're not a man or a woman, or maybe you identify as both. That's what, from what I understand, but I'm not non-binary. So you have to Google that a little more, but that's essentially what I understand.
I love it. I think you did a beautiful summation all the way around on both gender and also on our realms in the rainbow of sexuality, the scale of sexuality. I think you did a great job. And you're right. It is my understanding. I too, you know, don't identify as non-binary, but it's really more about feeling into That's like
Mm-hmm.
if you're gender fluid, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can feel one day and stand up as your more masculine energy or your more
Mm-hmm.
masculine side, or you could
Yeah.
stand up more on your feminine side the next day. Or
Right.
you may just decide that neither one of them you're the blend of. It's
Right.
just about how you want to embrace the body, the space
Right.
that you are in. And I but
Oh man.
but when you took a talk about, the sense of the journey, sitting in it as a Black person, I want to kind of narrow in a little bit and just, feel into what feels shareable to you, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No triggering. I don't want you to
Yeah.
do that. But
Yeah.
let's talk about what it has been to be queer and Black.
Mm. Yeah. A lot more acceptance than I was actually anticipating.
Mhm.
There are different subsects of people. Like, of course, you have people who are like rallying for me, people who've been super, deeply supportive since day one, people who've encouraged me to transition. Like I have one aunt in particular who said her words were, don't let her, my girlfriend at the time, don't let her stop you from, transitioning, things like that, like, be yourself kind of thing. And and she's a Black Guyanese woman, like from Guyana. So it was, for me, it felt very like wholesome and very beautiful to, witness Black adults be such an integral part of my identity and my journey of finding myself. And then, of course, you have the people who are like just really annoying and talking to me about how like you're not gonna be able to give birth and da 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 da. I'm like, but I don't want children biologically. Like there are so many questions, right? Like even if I were to remain as a woman, if that's the first argument you come up with, you should probably reevaluate your view of women. First of all, like, does it make you less of a woman because you don't have a womb? Because there are women who are born without wombs. Like there are women who are born without the ability to give birth, and so does she now no longer a woman because of it? Like it's so weird, and it's like people's views on the queer community directly correlates with their views on women. It's like exactly the same. You can, if you can tell a woman, you can tell a person by the way they talk about women if they're going to accept your queerness or not. Like you can tell off the bat, you know what I'm saying? Like, and of course, like there's accepting the queerness, which again, acceptance isn't a thing. This is your fucking identity, pardon my language. Like this is who you are. You walk into this world like this, like you accept credit card bills, okay? You accept, you accept the fact that your lotion ran out and you have to go get a new bottle. You accept the fact that your guitar string broke. You don't accept somebody's identity, right? Like it's so weird. Like that's such a weird concept. So this whole, oh, I accept you, like that's really disgusting. And it's something that some people should really unpack, because what does that mean? Right? It's like the cop saying, I accept that you're Black, man. I'm not gonna kill you today. Like, are you sparing me? What the fuck is that? Like there's so much more nuance. So anyways, essentially, being Black and queer isn't a weird thing. I've discovered a lot about like, how there were queerness in Cameroon, there was queerness in Angola, there's queerness in Kenya, there's queerness in Egypt, and Egypt is part of Africa, by the way. And there is like queerness all around, so people completely understand that queerness is inherently a Black thing. It's inherently an Indian thing. It's inherently a Native thing. It's inherently our thing. Like it's not a new thing. And that's what I learned. And within the queer community. And if people took 5 minutes to talk to a queer person who had the energy to talk to them, you would then realize, hey, like, you know what I mean? So for me, the journey of being Black and queer has been relatively well accepted, relatively well good. I'm definitely one of the fortunate ones because I came out in the time where queerness was popular and popping, and it was cool to be trans and cool to be queer. So I just kind of continued to ride that wave, unintentionally, of course. But hey, it doesn't hurt, you know what I'm saying, to come out during this wave, right? And so I would also say that, like, it was also quite disheartening, like learning about the amounts of Black people who are super ignorant, and who don't understand how much colonialism still lives in their veins and lives in their DNA. It's unfortunate to have to sit down and have conversations with grown-ass people about who I am and trying to, like, as if I need to prove something to them. Like, it's one thing to not understand and want to learn, and it's another thing to not understand, not want to learn, but present yourself like you want to understand, just to bait me into a conversation so that you can tell me about your Christianity and about how God hates me, or da 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 da. Like, I don't want to hear none of that shit, or about how I'm confused. That was a conversation I got a lot, where I'm confused, and I'm like, I've never felt more found in my life. I've never felt more seen and more secure and more in my body, in my life. Like, I don't look at my life differently anymore. Like, I look at my life as if it's my own, and it's
It's
my
your home.
responsibility. Exactly. And through that, there's been a lot of growing. Like I've been learning about finances and I've been learning about all this different stuff. And I feel like the pinnacle of this was when I decided to transition, because making this one decision, now I feel like all the dreams that my brain had prior to my transition can now be realized, because now I feel like I'm myself. So I say all that just to like to die down. It's just, listen, like, being Black and queer are not separate. They're actually one and the same. In African culture, there are some countries who actually regard being trans as like a rites of as like a gatekeeper. Like we are like the people you come to in community for looking for wisdom, when it comes to like your gender and your relationships and whatever the case may be, because we know what it's like to be a man and a woman. We know what it's like. So we understand from both perspectives. If we stand in both worlds and lead you and guide you, that's how we were regarded. And also to note that there's a country in Africa, I can't remember which one it is, who doesn't even gender their babies. They wait until they get older and then let them gender themselves. And so for me, I don't know if I'm comfortable raising my child non-binary, but what I will say to you is that I'll raise the kid how I think the kid is. And if the kid turns around and says, "Daddy, honestly, I'm actually a girl," sick, then we just rearrange everything and just adjust. And it's not that deep. That's it. You just get up and you adjust. There's no apologies needed, no nothing. You assume something, just like when you're talking to a trans person. You don't know if I identify as non-binary or as a woman or as a man. You have no idea. You only assume based on what you've been taught masculinity looks like that I'm a man. It just so happens that I'm a man, so it makes sense this time. So you call me he and him, I don't get offended. That's my pronouns. However, if that wasn't my pronouns and you to approach me calling me he and him, I would just gently be like, actually my pronouns are they and them, or our pronouns are she and her. And then you would just be like, sick. That your response is okay, and continue on in the sentence with my new pronoun, with my pronouns. Does that make any sense? So I just want to say all that to say that, like, being queer and being Black, they're not separate. They're actually the same.
All of them. I really, you really touched some things that I think take us right into the next section of this. That this idea or understanding of, and you cleared so much of it up, but understanding the desire to be called what we are, right? Understanding the desire to be able to identify as we are. And so what I mean with that, and you just said it, but I'm gonna ask you, do you feel, because I know that in my practice, in my world, I will normally ask now. I make no assumptions of what a person wants to be gendered or wants to be used. So I just simply will ask, what are your pronouns? And I think there is some conversation I'd love for us to have around that. I think a lot of people don't understand why that's important. I think you explained that, but could you maybe offer out some tips as to how to just approach that?
Sure.
And go ahead. How do we just approach that?
So so I just want to say that, like, for me as a trans person, I'm not non-binary. So I can start off the jump by, if you don't know somebody's gender pronouns, make the assumption and allow them to correct you. That's where it is. It's not about, oh, I don't want to misgender them. So like, don't get in your head about it. And not you, like people who are watching, stop. Okay, like a small percentage of us are non-binary. The majority of us trans people are binary. Like, so if we look like this, it's because we want to be called like this. It's not, don't call me they and them. Don't ever do that. That is super dysphoric and like really weird, because that's not my pronouns. Definitely don't call me she and her, because why? Why would that even come to your mind at this point? You know what I mean? Like, there are so many, so like, I just want to say, like, based on the majority senses of what I've heard from trans people and what I prefer, I just prefer you call me how you think I am. And if I don't like what you think, if I don't like what you're saying, I'll just correct you. And that's where you need to be open up to receive that. So yeah, that's it. Like, just be open. Don't bother with the "I'm so sorry's." I don't want to hear it. No one wants to hear it. It's because it feels very like taxing, like almost like I have to do the emotional labor to now bring you back to life because you're so embarrassed that you misgender. It's not that deep. And this is where cancel culture and all this kind of shit comes in, and it's a whole lot of garbage. Dude, just do your best, show up, do your best, call me what you think I am, and let me correct you. That is the whole thing. That's it. That's what I would say. Don't do not default to they and them. It's just lazy and weird. Like just call me, and it's not brave. Like just say what you think I am, and then I will correct you. That is where the community, that's where the dialogue comes from. I don't mean to say like laziness as if it's a thing. I more just say it's too PC, it's too trying to be politically correct. Stop. Like we don't want that, because it's inauthentic. If you in your mind think I'm a man, say that, and then allow me to correct you from the brain stem out, rather than just you performing that you think I'm a guy. Performing. Don't perform for me. Just call me what you think. That's it.
I don't got nothing to add. You said it beautifully, because that's exactly it, y'all. If you come across a scenario, go with what the flow is. If you are corrected, just say okay and use the right pronoun.
That's
it's
it.
that simple.
Whole acronym of the LGBT, 90% of us don't even know it. We're just like, hey, I'm into this, and we don't care. We just kind of show up. You know what I mean? So
I love that, because this is going to be, I would love for us to do another conversation, because
sure,
I think there's a lot even in that realm of understanding that there is like almost a political side that is about this space as well, that is kind of adds some layers to how we all show up. And even as a community, you know, I think this is important to say, we are humans. We are human beings at our essence, at our core. We gonna fight. We are going to have misnomers. We are going to have things that causes, you know, dissonance. We fam, but fam don't always see things all the same way. And I think it is imperative to denote that, especially as us being Black and queer, that there are layers even in that political sighting of how all of it stands up. But to me, that's a whole other conversation. That's a breakdown. We know that there's still, once again, the space of colonialism. There's a hierarchy that exists, and we won't talk about that here. We're all about the education and the love right now. So if you're up for it, we'll come back and do that conversation.
Sure,
And with that, my darling, I just want to tell you how amazing this conversation was. You covered so much information, and I hope you guys watch this all the way through, because, you know, Levi dropped some gems of just how you can stand up and be not just an ally, but just be. Be. And I really was hoping, and I think we got there, to take some of the mystery that we think surrounds this space of being queer and being non-binary and being trans, and just realize he gets up in the morning, man.
That's it.
He got to do what he's got to do, just like all of us. He puts his pants on one leg at a time. Like he's doing him. And there's nothing that detracts from that. It's a journey that we are all on. Thank you, my darling, for sharing the space with
anytime.
Me, right? Please let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's start there.
Sure. So if you have an Instagram, you can follow me at Sir Levyi. It's Levyi. The first, the number one, and then ST, the first, and then an underscore at the end. So it's Sir Levyi the first. And that is my name. On Facebook, it's Levyi A Love. So again, Levyi A.love. You'll see a picture of Malcolm X pop up. That's me. And then that's essentially it. You can check out my new song, Hot Cocoa, on Spotify. It's hot and then COCOA. I don't know why I spelled cocoa like that. Don't ask me questions. I just did it.
I loved it, actually.
And then I looked back and I was like, I feel like I spelled it wrong, but we're already here, and that's it.
I actually really love, there's a smoothness to the song, right? I'm really just pumping it because I do love the song. Seriously, I've been listening to it. Like I went to bed to it last night, not even joking.
Wow.
But there's a smoothness to the song, and it really does give me that taste of sweetness. Like when you do drink hot chocolate,
yes.
I felt that. So for me, there's a brilliance in it. I didn't realize you felt a ways about it, actually.
I know I felt the way about the way I spelt the name. I misspelled Coco.
Did you? I thought it was creative. I didn't pick up on it at all.
Okay, great. Well,
I thought you were just bringing your creative flair. You guys are getting a bit of a gem here. Hey, you're getting a behind the scenes on this. I got it exclusive. I love it.
Oh my goodness.
It will be lit. I'm going to put that link, honestly, on this podcast. All of his information, sorry, will be in the stream. All of it will be here. We will be in the space of it all. So thank you yet again. You are the best. Love you all the way.
Love you too.
And we are out.